Hello, welcome or welcome back. So in the last video we did this wonderful shoulder movement to reclaim the original capacity or more of the possibilities of our shoulders, of how our shoulders are intended or could move. Today's video will follow up a bit on this because we already established the directions of the shoulders, up, down, forwards, backwards, and then we had circles of the shoulder movements with the arm extended or the arm bent. And this lesson now we look at how the shoulder movements relate to the hip movements. And some people really love this lesson. They get a lot out of this lesson. So let's get to it. Here it's still early morning and I'm just going to lie down on my couch to lead you through the movements. Please feel at ease to do the same. Just relax and we will move and relax at the same time and freshen up. So please come to lie down. You can be on the floor, carpet, bed or couch as I am now. Have a pillow supporting your head, so don't let your head hang down to the side. And some people would suggest to use your lower arm as a cushion, but why refunction your arm to be a cushion when you can find a cushion or a towel and then perfectly just rest your left shoulder or your underlying shoulder. So that's the thing. I'm lying on my left side. You can be on your right side. Like it's the same thing like in the last video. Just whatever you're comfortable with first. And I'm choosing to lie on my left side because there's better light for the video here on the head side of the couch. So what's next? In between your knees you could have like a little cushion or a towel. Make the effort, get something or a t-shirt or a jacket, anything. Just, it shouldn't be too big, so the angle of your upper leg into the hip joint is not too steep. It should be rather horizontal, so the cushion can't be too big, but it should be something where you just feel just comfy. Okay, and then once you're resting, your upper arm can go anywhere. You can rest your hand of your upper arm in front on your lower arm or on your side, or stand the hand in front of you wherever you feel comfortable. Let's review first the movements: shoulder forwards and shoulder backwards, shoulder up and shoulder down. So if you haven't done the previous video, I really encourage you to do the previous video, to take the time to explore these movements of the shoulder in detail. Work through the whole sequence, but my point is you can just memorize these movements or you can stop at any time or just like take a part out of this lesson and do what you're interested in at that moment. What you feel drawn to at that moment, because it's a movement exploration and it's something to make your life better and not one more thing you have to do. So forwards and backwards and upwards and downwards, so you're clear on these motions. And then we will do a half circle. So first move your shoulder forwards and then move your shoulder up towards your ear. So that's the first quarter of the circle, and then backwards. And then return to the start position. So that's our first half circle. It's a circle, it's half of a circle. So the shoulder, your upper shoulder forwards, then up towards your ear, and then back wherever that is, backwards, So you pull your shoulder backwards and then return to the start position. And imagine the movement, the extent of the movement, the amplitude. Imagine how far you move your shoulder forwards and how far you move your shoulder upwards and how far you move your shoulder backwards, and it should be the same, otherwise it's not half a circle, right? Otherwise it's like a triangle, uneven triangle, a geometric shape without clear definition. So try to make it a... So how can we know when you don't measure this, like with a camera system? How could you know that the distances you move your shoulder forwards, up and backwards are more or less the same? So let's change the circle, the half circle, and do a half circle that's in front of you. So first, as a first movement, move your shoulder upwards towards your ear, and then forwards, and then downwards, and then back into the starting position. So by turning the half circle, you might get a better idea of what you're doing and where you are in space. Proprioception, which is very important. Proprioception. If you Google proprioception, there's so much interesting stuff to be found. So I recommend to look up, just look up, like if you have a time on your phone somewhere on your computer, just look up proprioception and benefits of proprioception, and you will find so much, and I find it very interesting to read. So shoulder up, forwards, down, and back to the starting position. And then we do a half circle backwards. So shoulder up, shoulder backwards, shoulder downwards, and for me, I can already feel that my downwards is not as much as my upwards. So that's something I personally would like to work on. And of course, there's the previous video which will help with that. So shoulder backwards. So we have these half circles, and then also do the full circle. So shoulder up, shoulder forwards, shoulder downwards, shoulder backwards. And of course, as you might have guessed already, there's the other direction, counterclockwise circles. And you can make big circles and small circles. So that's the upper shoulder. What's next? What is next? Next is the hip, the pelvis. So we are going to try to make lines first. There's the same thing with the pelvis as we did with the shoulder. Find out. So usually I would say move your hip joint up or down, but let's start with you. Please find out in which direction your pelvis can roll the easiest. So what is your, so you have to take a moment. You have to take a moment. Just breathe a moment, just wait. Just rest, be sure to be fully resting. So for me, okay, I need to reassess. So I'm really resting. Where's my feet? Are my feet in the video? Okay. And then, if you test the direction of the upper knee forwards or the upper knee backwards, that would be a roll of the pelvis. but there's also the pelvis coming up to your ear, or your pelvis tilting away from your ear, your upper hip joint tilting away from your upper ear. Oh, that's a relief in the lower back actually. And make sure it's only movements of your pelvis, and that you don't move your leg around in space, and that you don't move your feet around. It's just that your feet stay on top of each other, and your knees, they can slide a little bit when it's the knee forwards and backwards, but when you tilt your pelvis sideways, so the right hip joint closer to your right shoulder or further away from your right shoulder, the knees just stay where they are. There's no need to move the knees. It feels so nice. And then when you're clear about what's easiest, just start to make the movements bigger until you have these 4 directions and the 2 lines that cross each other perpendicularly. So you have a very clear image about the movements of your pelvis. Forwards, backwards, up and down. And then we have half circles. For example, right hip joint up towards your right ear, and then forwards, and then downwards, and back to the original position. Or half circles just downwards, so the knee forwards first, and then the hip joint downwards, and then the knee backwards, and then return to the original position. So you can play with half circles, trying to make them better and smoother and well formed, and then circles. So, and of course that's on the upper part of yourself. That's not just shoulder movements, but it involves also the chest and the ribs and your head and your eyes, and the movement travels down from your shoulders to your pelvis. And then when I do the pelvis movement, of course, this large structure, the pelvis, is well integrated into the body. So it affects the movement of the pelvis affects the knee. It affects how it turns the ankles, the feet, and of course it travels up the spine. It affects the chest and even the head. So now we combine the movements of the shoulder and the pelvis. So that's the goal of this lesson. So we have come so far. That's pretty good. Welcome to the middle of the lesson. So that we can actually start to combine those movements. So the a simple movement would be to move your shoulder forwards, and shoulder and pelvis both forwards, which is a roll forwards, and when you pull them backwards, it's a roll backwards, and that's a way to come to lie onto your belly or to roll onto your back. Actually, if you would do the movement bigger, so much fun, but we keep it small. Otherwise, for me, I would roll off the couch. We don't want that, so it's just a little bit forwards and a little bit backwards. Let's see if I can enjoy this movement. And please enjoy the movement, just forwards and backwards. Oh, this is so nice. This is why I get stuck with this lesson, because I just keep doing this for a while and then I either fall asleep or I'm so well rested that I want to do other things. So it's just forwards and backwards. Oh, and you can roll, allow your head to roll with that, and it's so nice. Or stop at any point. That's what I'm doing. But we have a video, a movement sequence to finish. We have like real work here, real studying going on. So let's differentiate. Let's move the shoulder in one direction forwards and the pelvis, the upper hip joint, backwards. So shoulder forwards and hip backwards and return. And let's just quickly also add the other direction. So hip joint forwards, shoulder backwards. So it's like a, what is this? Opposite directions. And start small so that you can feel the connection throughout the spine. So where these movements of your pelvis connect to the movements of your shoulder girdle. Throughout your spine. And maybe you can play with going a little bit into extension or flexion. Everything, like you have a clear definition of what to do, and then you have a lot of freedom in the rest of yourself to accommodate that movement or to accompany that movement. So if you are doing this on your carpet or on your yoga mat, sometimes it's a good idea to just roll onto your back and be in a supine resting position. So just to feel how it is, how is your relation to the floor, because it seems like we're doing these movements only on one side. So with in my case on the right side, but we're still the same person, we're still the whole person, right? So even if you're doing this on the right side, the left side participates, isn't it? Needs to participate. So this will be, I think, especially clear in the next movement. So the next movement, let's do this. Move your shoulder downwards towards your hip and your hip upwards towards your shoulder. So the shoulder downwards and the hip upwards, which is basically you shorten your upper side. You bring the ribs of your upper side closer together by moving like this. And then let go again. But if you feel out carefully, you will notice that you actually lengthen the other side. That the shoulder of the other side, the shoulder and the hip joint of your underlying side will distance from each other, will be further apart, while the upper parts come together, the lower parts will distance from each other. So actually we work on both sides, but it depends on where you put your attention to. And then try the other direction, which means to move the shoulder upwards and the hip downwards. So you lengthen your upper side and you shorten your lower side, the side you're resting on. What a nice feeling. So do this until you be able to have a clear image about this movement. So, okay, and then and you can already imagine how complicated this lesson can get. Just depends on how much we will do. So, for example, if we combine the shoulder forwards and the hip backwards, the opposite directions, with the shortening and lengthening of the side. So let's do this together. Shoulder forwards and hip backwards, and then shoulder downwards and hip upwards, then shoulder backwards and hip forwards, then shoulder upwards and hip downwards, and shoulder forwards and hip backwards, and then shoulder downwards and hip upwards, then shoulder backwards and hip forwards, then shoulder upwards and hip downwards, shoulder forwards and hip backwards. So that's a full circle. So try to do that on your own. So you have two circles, shoulder circles and hip circles. And don't hold your breath, don't clench your teeth. So you see where this is going. And then we can do circles to turn around the circle. So you circle your shoulder backwards and your hip forwards. And then you could focus what's happening on your lower side. You see, it's a little bit complicated. So let's just remember that these things exist, and take your time. Sometime when you're in bed, I would suggest in bed, like in the morning or in the evening before you fall to sleep. Fall to sleep. That's such a nice expression, to fall asleep. So you lie down, and little did you know, you fell asleep. So, but before you fall asleep, you can do these circles in opposite direction. So that's not something eaten in one sitting. So this is something you can explore throughout the week, or until my next video, or until you do the next video. Just explore into these possibilities. And also you can do it, you can actually turn around and do it on the other side. For me on the couch, or could I just turn around? Yeah, actually my couch works in both directions. Not bad, such a good couch. So if you will, you can try it on the other side, with the other shoulder up, and then take a rest on your back, which is nice. Or even better, to come up to standing and walk around, because these movements are actually like precursors, like a preparation for walking, for to have a fresh look at walking. These collateral movements, these shoulder and hip circles, twist throughout the spine, maybe if you're a golfer, if you play golf, or yes, this could improve your swing actually. So that's a lesson I do with golfers. So yes, so let's wrap this up and come to stand and see how it is in standing. And in standing you can do shoulder circles, or if in lying supine, if you just rolled over onto your back, also whatever, it's you have all the freedoms. If you're in standing or on your back, you can do these shoulder circles and just it's easy, it's nice, just see how that feels like. Or how would we do pelvis movements when you think about the lesson, and then just walk a bit and see how your arms swing, how your arms move in walking. If that improved, if you have this certain kind of smoothness, of easiness in your movements. And if you do, I'm happy for you. Good job. Very nice. So please leave your comments below in the video, in the comments section, to share your experiences in this lesson. If you like this video, please like, and thank you for watching. It was my pleasure to have you, and see you in the next video.